sentences. It is we're analyzing quantitative and qualitative data of 3rd and 5th graders at the Short Hills of Pingry to figure out what we can learn about why humans read stories. So actually that was just one sentence, but anyways. First we're going to go through altruistic punishment, which is the literary criticism we're applying to all the stories we're reading, and kind of the basis for the whole project. We're going to go through the stories and the ratings that we received, the ultimatum game, which was the quantitative piece of the data itself, and then what conclusions we can draw from all of that. So essentially, altruistic punishment is the framework of this whole project. So think English class, you have to apply a literary framework to an essay, to kind of give a purpose to your essay. So it could be kind of feminist theory, Marxist theory, queer theory, it could be doppelganger theory. This falls under that category of a literary framework that we can apply to a piece of work to figure out what we can learn about it. Ours is called altruistic punishment. It was kind of coined by the author of this book called Comeuppance, William Flesch, who is a Brandeis University professor. Essentially, his criticism is that society consists of cooperators, defectors, and punishers. So we are a cooperative society. We all cooperate, whether that be in terms of just being nice to each other or having an economy that subsists on running businesses and buying things from those businesses. And then there are defectors, people that will try to compromise that trust and that cooperation. And then the punishers will rise to kind of take down the defectors and maintain and kind of reestablish cooperation in society. So an easy example of that is there are businesses, and then a defector in this kind of economic system of capitalism is a robber who will steal something from a business. And then a punisher is the policeman or the vigilante who will take down this robber and make sure everyone gets their money. And essentially, so that's just an example. And part of his theory is how this whole thing applies to literature. So in the society of cooperators, defectors, and punishers, we look to see this emulated in our literature or not emulated in our literature, and based on that, we feel things. So in Harry Potter, it follows this basically to a T, where there's a society of wizards, Voldemort is a defector, and Harry Potter rises as the Punisher to take down Voldemort, and everything's pieces is restored. And that's why we love Harry Potter, because we feel so happy because it reflects the way we want to see a society. And then kind of opposite happens in Huck Finn. So this is spoiler alerts for maybe juniors, but Huck Finn almost fits this to a T, but then at the very end, Huckleberry Finn kind of unlearns the lesson that he was learning throughout the entire story, and Jim isn't quite treated the way he's supposed to be treated, and therefore kind of defection from what we believe is right as a society isn't completely addressed or isn't completely punished, and it leaves us with this feeling of dissatisfaction. That's why the ending of that novel is so notorious, the ending of Huck Finn. But again, that's why we read it, because we feel something based on that. It doesn't adhere to this framework, so we feel angry, we feel deceived. Sorry. Another piece of this framework, a key piece of this, is maximizing self-gain while also maximum utility for society. So don't get confused and think of society of cooperators as a bunch of kind of selfless, lovey-dovey people who are just trying to, make sure I build everyone up. This is inherently selfish. You want to maintain a cooperative society because it benefits you. In a cooperative society, you are able to do the things you want to do and get your money and get your friends and all that stuff. So just bear that in mind as you go through the rest of the presentation. It'll be important later. Sorry. So just here's some quotes from a book called Why We Care About Literary Characters by Blakey Vermeule. Her research is based very closely off William Flesch's research. So literature deals with meting out justice, with detecting and punishing rule violators and cheaters, and helps orient people to the modern world concerned with the most ordinary of vices. And we care about literary characters because being watchful, skeptical, flexible, detached, and ironic allows us to speculate in a range of markets, from marriage market, the stock market, to the insurance market, trusting just enough the guidance of invisible hands to believe that the market is fair, while inoculating ourselves against frauds, tricksters, and cheats. So kind of just like I said, we read literature according to Blakey Vermeule and her research as well, because we want to see reflections of the way we act in society and what we can learn from that and how we can adapt from that. So why children? You may be asking why we sought out specifically elementary school children to run this experiment on. We kind of based that off research from Dr. Alison Gopnik at the Santa Fe Institute and also Paul Bloom at Yale University. We watched 2 lectures of theirs, and kind of what we learned is that pretend play, when kids play pretend, when they make up stories and stuff, that as actually representation of a counterfactual reality is what they call it, which is basically how children view the world and their perceptions of the world comes out in pretend play. And so a classic example is that we love in HRT is called Charlie Ravioli. And Charlie Ravioli is the imaginary friend of a child of a kind of a Wall Street executive, And Charlie Ravioli, their imaginary friend, always happens to be kind of too busy for this kid. So this is published in the New York Times, so in this article, the person's like, Mom, I was gonna play with Charlie today, but Charlie has a meeting. So their imaginary friend that has a meeting is too busy for them. And this is just exactly what I said. Their kind of version of pretend play is, or like what their imaginary friend, what they imagine, is representative of how they view the world. And that's how they view the world as the child of a Wall Street, executive. So that's why we use children, because it's very transparent in what we're going to be reading. So this is the rating system, how we rated the stories that we got from these children. The prompt we gave them was, please write a story with a villain in it. NA was if there is no conflict, it doesn't fit the framework. So if a kid writes a story where literally nothing happens in it, it's just exposition, we can't really analyze it because there's no conflict, there's no transgression for us to kind of dig into, so that just won't work for us. So we had to throw those data points out. 0 is conflict transpired, so something happened, wrongdoing occurred, but the aggression goes unaddressed. There's no punishment or altruism. So this is when something bad happens in the story, but nothing is done to address that wrongdoing. I'll skip to a 2 because the 1's a little complicated. 2 is when conflict transpires and an appropriate punishment is applied. So something happens and then the person who does the wrongdoing, the villain in the story that we asked them to write about, is completely and wholly punished. And then a 1 is kind of an in-between. It's where the conflict is maybe partially addressed, but not completely, or they meet a resolution, but there isn't really quite a punishment for the wrongdoer or the transgressor in the story. And also important to note is that this is scaled based on the environment and the setting of the story. So in some stories, the appropriate punishment for what happened could be murder. The person should be killed. But then in another story, if it's like in a classroom setting, it could just be like a detention. And the murder doesn't weigh more than the detention, it just kind of depends on how the story is set. Yeah, let's scale that way. So I'm going to run through really quick examples. I'm not going to read all these because it's going to take a long time, but I'll give you guys like the SparkNotes version. Sorry, Mr. Peterson. So this one is I'll just kind of give you the description. You guys can guess what you think the rating was. So there's this race called the Moogalies, and then, I think these are the Moogalies right here. And then the Gillilees invade the Moogalies in something called the Moogalie War, just completely unwarranted attack, and then the Moogalies defeated the Gillilees. Go Bob, shouted everyone. So do you think that's a 0, a 1, or a 2? A 2, yeah. There's a punishment. The Gillilees were the transgressors, and they were just completely punished. They were defeated. This story is, again, I'm not going to say what it is, but basically, Billy is bullied by this kid named Michael. And at the end of the story, he's bullied throughout the whole part of it, and he's kind of thinking about it, and he's processing. And then he says, if you stop hurting me, you will be more likable. And then he says, okay, I will stop hurting you. So, what do you guys think that one is?
1.
A 1, exactly. So there was a resolution met. It was addressed, but Michael never got his comeuppance for just being a physical bully throughout this entire thing. So it is an in between. Definitely classifies as a hard 1. And then this one, I'll actually just read this one out loud because it's pretty short. Finally, Percy handed Steve a green piece of paper. Just like that, my life changed. I spent 3 horrible years with Percy. He would always hit me if he did not get somewhere on time. One day I decided to go on a ride by myself just as I was learning. Steve, blah, blah, blah. So, okay. Long story short, it's missing the beginning of the story because it was just very long. But this guy is, this is a car, it's about a car. You can't tell this from the story, but it's about a car, so it's technically a car. And he's taken in by this person named Steve or Percy? Percy. Yeah, so he spent horrible years with Percy. And then in the end, he escapes. He runs away from Percy. So what do you think that is? No, at the end, Percy doesn't come up again. The car just goes away. Just leaves. Yes, it's a 0.
Okay.
Because there's a transgression, and Percy just gets away completely scot-free. Nothing happens to Percy. So those are the examples of a 0, 1, and 2, just to give you guys reference. And the second piece of this, kind of the quantitative piece of this project, was the ultimatum game. So essentially, how you play the ultimatum game is you put 10 pieces of something of value in front of someone. So for adults, maybe it'd be dollars, but since we work with kids, we put toys in front of them, just kind of small trinkets. And we said, split this between the 2 of us, the proctor and the person, but know that if we reject your offer, no one gets anything. So in this way, they want to maximize the amount of toys they get because it's something of value to them. They want as many toys as possible, but they also don't want to get no toys. So they don't want to say, okay, you get 0 and I get 10, because then, well, a few kids did do that, but knowing the rules, they'd be afraid to do that because they know that if we say no, and we think that's an unfair trade, then no one will get anything. So it is kind of very similar to the altruistic punishment framework. It's seeing how much you could maximize your self-gain in a cooperative setting, because you need to cooperate with the person you're sitting across from. So why this game? So the results vary based on the player, so we had enough variation to really kind of dig into what these differences meant. And also, this is ultimatum game comes from a branch of research called, or a branch of study called game theory, economic game theory, and it kind of speaks something called like the Homo economicus, or the economics man, which is basically how can a man, best self-maximize his profit. Think like a Wall Street banker. How can you get rich enough without kind of breaking the rules and breaking the trust of society that is paying you? So it's kind of this time-tested way of evaluating self-maximization in the context of cooperation. And now here's the data. Before we go to the data, does anyone have any questions or anything? Yes?
What was your sample size?
So the sample size was 32 fifth graders and 32 third graders. So 64 total kids, elementary school students. So here's our data. So again, with our 64 data points, what we learned was there's a higher association with kids who wrote a story that has an altruism, of 2, to have offered an equal or even generous split. So they would offer, so kids who wrote a 2 with about 80% accuracy would offer an equal amount, say, okay, you get 50, I take 50, or they would even offer us more, which is kind of rare. That would kind of be like 5% of this data. Meanwhile, kids who had an altruism of 0 in their story, so kind of like the car story we just went over, had just over 50. So it was definitely a significant difference. And it was significant. It was there across 3rd and 5th grade data, probably equally pronounced. Yeah, so there was association with a higher capacity of altruism in storytelling to correspond to a kind of sense of fairness in the ultimatum game to offer an equal split. Yes?
I'm sorry, can you say again what the red and the blue represent?
Yeah, so the red represents, with the key here, the red represents that the kid offered 5 to the proctor in the ultimatum game, or more than 5. So that shows that they were offering an equal split, or even a generous split.
Okay, so it's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, out of 10, sorry. Yeah, any other questions? I'll get to the conclusions of what this kind of means in the next slide. So what our conclusions are is basically that kids' trend in storytelling loosely correspond to their instincts in the ultimatum game, and ultimatum game, as we went over in game theory, is a proven measure of self-profit kind of in the confines and context of cooperation. And basically, we found a correspondence or association between equality and generosity in the ultimatum game and fairness in storytelling. Just back on the thing, so the association was here, how the red got larger as we got more altruistic in the storytelling. And basically what this says is that kids tell and interpret stories in keeping with their own personal concepts of fairness. So what kids interpreted as fair corresponded in their story. So if what was fair to them was keeping 7 and offering 3, or keeping 8 and offering 2, or keeping 5 and offering 5, that loosely was associated with their data in their storytelling as well. And this kind of relates all the way back to the altruistic punishment framework we were talking about, in which William Flesch theorizes that we read literature because it kind of appeals to our concepts of fairness in society and cooperation in society. So that's the connection. And so does this help answer why we read literature? Maybe, basically. And before I'm opening up to questions, like a few things I want to say about interdisciplinary research is that it definitely is like a really engaging experience, even beyond the research itself, kind of working with such a disparate room of kids. I'll get to like who's on the team in a second and credit them all. But it is like a really unique experience because I walked into the room not knowing any like statistical stuff or any of that side, not that side of the research or the game theory, the economic stuff. But I did go in caring a lot about literature and literary analysis. And then other people filled in the gaps, and I filled in their gaps, and it was just a really good team-building experience that kind of collaborated across the disciplines, which isn't something we see a lot. So it really was a unique experience. Thank you to these people, so Mr. Peterson, all the team members this year, and then obviously Journal Club family. Thanks, you guys. And any questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious about the actual research process. So you went to the Short Hills campus, and did they know that this was for a study?
Mr. Peterson, you want to speak to that? I think we told them.
Yes, they did. They had library time, and so the administrators down there, we went down and actually presented our work and sort of pitched the framework. And then we,
To the students.
no, to the faculty and to the all administrators, and letters went home in terms of liability.
Yeah.
Basically, they would write the story in a 55-minute period during library time, and then they would come out, and then our Humanities Literacy team would have the little trinket booth set up and play the game
Yeah.
with them, and then they'd write the story.
We also took first grader data, but we haven't gone to analyzing that because it's kind of close to incomprehensible. Storytelling, it's very hard to analyze, but we'll get there. There's baby steps. Anyone else? Yeah.
So just like these pools, were the 0, 1, and 2, like the number of stories in each category around the same, or?
Sorry, can you ask that again?
So like here, I can only see 100% of the stories ranked 0, but was that like 5? Was that?
So the most common story rating was 1, and then 0. Then I think 0, and then 2 came afterwards. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it definitely wasn't equal. That's kind of how the data figure I used.
Yeah.
But it was definitely 1 was probably the most frequent, then 0s, and then 2s were a little more rare.
Did that change between 3rd and 5th grade? The way they categorize between rankings there?
I don't remember if it did. Do you have any HR team members want to speak to that? Yeah.
To my memory, there was slightly less 1s as they got older. There were more 2s, I'd say, as they got older.
So it became clear. Yeah, as we got to the 5th grades. Yeah. I was gonna say, as we got to the 5th grade stories, it was definitely very much like, it's interesting because you think it would go the opposite way, but I kind of viewed more black and white morality. They're like very like violent stories that are like very clear instances of wrongdoing. Whereas in the 3rd grade stories, they were a little more gray and a little harder to analyze, I would say. Maybe because of the writing ability and the gap in the 2 years.
More questions.
Yeah.
So you said it's a significant difference. What kind of statistics did you run on it?
So I said that and I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I haven't run like the statistical numbers on it yet. I meant like significance in like the colloquial way.
You're gonna upset these statisticians.
Yeah, I know. I was like, Dr. Kirk is gonna get me for that one. Yeah, no, we still have work to do in analyzing like the numbers and stuff, and maybe even taking more data to make it a significant difference.
And in all cases, they wrote the story first and then played the game?
Yes. Or no, actually the way it worked was they all started off writing the stories, and then like based on like alphabetical like last name or something, we took in groups at a time to play the game. So some kids could have played the game before they finished their story, and some kids could have played the game after they finished their story.
Do you think that would have caused a negligible change? Or do you think there's some influence playing the game could have on the story or vice versa?
It's interesting to explore. Like, I don't know if any of the 3rd or 5th graders were like knowledgeable enough to pick up on what the game meant, or be like,
I doubt it, but even so.
Yeah, even so, it's possible. Yeah.
Also, like, when they were writing the stories, like, it was their librarian who was saying, like, this is what we're going to do today, we're going to write a story. And then when we took them to do the game, it was like, it seemed like 2 separate activities to them.
Okay. So it was a kind of segmented.
Yeah.
Questions? Cool. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So I remember last year you presented on a paper about this this topic, and I think it was looking at different ages, right? And like, was that true?
I think it was Ethan.
Sorry.
I presented on Gonorrhea last year.
Right, super gonorrhea. How can I forget super gonorrhea? Okay, so you presented on this.
Yes.
And was that looking at ages?
I was looking at age and gender.
Right. Does this correspond with this idea of this shift from 3rd grade to 5th? Does that correspond with the previous literature on this?
When you say shift, do you mean like?
Like that we see, in the 3rd grade, it seems like there's different distribution between equal and none, right?
Yeah, so it's including more blues, basically.
Right. And does that correspond? I can't remember from your paper. Is similar to
Remember,
what
it was
they
about
were?
egalitarianism. Do you think egalitarianism increased with age? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I think egalitarianism did increase with age because the whole point of my paper was that when children were younger, they're more selfish and trying to do things in their benefit to their gain.
All right.
So
I thought that, but I just wanted to check
Yeah.
that.
mine was also a lot about gender too, and
Right.
the differences between that, which is something that we want to do in the future with this data too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Or pep of the day, guys. Okay. Mr. Peterson, do you have a question?
Just a general point, it's so paradoxical that the more sort of, violence is the wrong word, but the more extreme the punishment is, paradoxically, the more likely they are to have an equitable split. And I don't know what that means in terms of child development, but to all the sort of cognitive neuroscience development people, think about that and what's going on there.
Yeah, so visually what that looks like is the kids with a two in their story, so the kids that had a whole and complete punishment that very oftentimes skewed violent, like, we killed all the wrongdoers at the end, or they went to jail and were locked up for the rest of their life. They oddly happen to have, you know, an equal or greater split in the ultimate game, you know, 85% of the time or 80% of the
I feel
time.
like that makes sense though, because they have like this, like they have this a sense of it being fair or
Yeah.
equal,
Yeah.
right? And so harshly punishing wrongdoers kind of fits into this very black and white framework of being fair.
Yeah, it could kind of relate to our association with the word justice as like fair justice. where,
Right.
like not all justice is like that. It could very often be, you know, violent and aggressive, like it was the case in many of these.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. This idea of like bad people are punished even if it's extreme,
Exactly.
right? Is like
And it'll be interesting to see if that change is based on, these are Pingry kids that we're working with, and trust me, that was reflected in a lot of the stories. So like, the car one, which I cut off the beginning of, was like, I'm a Mercedes, or something. And so it's interesting, so I don't know if just this, maybe the subject matter would definitely change if we went from place to place, or like community to community, but I wonder if the data itself would change, if the trends would change.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Anyone else? Thank you.